Developing today, new details about the late Queen's hatred of Meghan Markle and how palace insiders view the final betrayal.
With coming across as a hypocrite or a contradiction. No cookies, I don't know. But Meghan felt like she didn't belong, in my personal opinion, because she refused to respect and learn about the family and institution that she married.
You have the ability to sell the Netflix specials, and you can also host the podcast, Meghan. It is certainly possible for you to organize the gorgeous photo opportunities in Montecito. Nevertheless, there is one thing that you just can't seem to control, and that is what the palace insiders are murmuring behind those centuries-old walls. This week, those murmurs came rushing out into the open like a cannon blast direct from the Tower of London. Please allow me to clarify one point. There is a lot of seriousness behind the labels that palace insiders call out. These are the individuals who have spent decades cleaning cutlery that is more expensive than a suburban house, keeping family feuds buried under layers of procedure, smiling through their teeth, and gritting their teeth in the face of scandals for the sake of the crown. One of them, however, has gone ahead and said the silent section out loud, and it is not just any quiet bit that they have spoken. I'm so sorry. You won't believe it, but they referred to Meghan Markle as the most destructive royal in history. Is that correct? You did hear that? The most destructive, as well as the least challenging, the least controversial, and the least polarizing. We're talking about destructiveness on a nuclear level. This is the kind of title that in royal circles is essentially the social equivalent of being banished to a faraway castle tower with nothing but a single candle and a window that lets in drafts. Can anyone tell me where this royal grenade ended up? According to a number of different sources, the remark was made in the course of a confidential and extremely open conversation that took place between highly senior palace staff members. This was not some intoxicated reporter from a tabloid who made stuff up for the sake of getting clicks. Someone who has been in those briefing rooms, who has dealt with the public relations nightmares, and who has seen personally what occurs when the company feels like it is cornered is the source of this information. This coming from someone who knows the machinery of the monarchy like the back of their hand, and it would appear that in their opinion, Meghan has done more than merely stir up controversy. The entire peacock has been demolished by her with a sledgehammer.
At this point, though, I mean, do you really think if he told Meghan not to do this, she would listen?
No, but
I don't want to
the
defend
key
Harry,
irony, though? Isn't that the key irony? Harry tried to say that it was William who was trapped within the royal family, but
Argue now. If you are Meghan and you are sitting in your Santa Barbara mansion, surrounded by your carefully selected art pieces and designer throw blankets, hearing something like that does not just hurt. It confirms the very thing that you have been trying to prove wrong ever since you married into that family, which is that you were never accepted, never understood, and always painted as the villain. On the other hand, here's the thing. The palace not exactly has a reputation for saying stuff like this without having a specific intention in mind. According to reports, the source did not pull any punches. According to this insider, they asserted that Meghan's arrival set off a chain of events that caused more internal instability than any other modern royal before her. They said that it was more than the scandal involving Prince Andrew, more than the divorce of Princess Diana, and more than Edward VIII abdicating the throne for Wallis Simpson. Yes, that is the level that they are referring to. And to tell you the truth, regardless of whether you adore or despise Meghan, you can't ignore the trail of drama that has followed her from the very beginning. The whirlwind romance, the fairy tale wedding, the lavish outfits, and then the sudden shift, the rumors of staff quitting in tears, the Duchess of Cambridge's difficult headlines, the move to Canada, the Oprah interview that basically set Windsor Castle on fire. And let's not even begin to discuss the Netflix documentary that made Buckingham Palace look like a combination of a cold, bureaucratic machine and a haunted house. Another statement that is alleged to have been made by the palace insider is said to have effectively struck to the heart of this rivalry. That which she did in public was not the most destructive aspect of her behavior. It is the thing that she burned down in private. Since the rest of us are only able to see the interviews, speeches, and public remarks that are made, the true power struggles take place behind those gilded doors. Now that is a loaded statement if I've ever heard one. That being said, this source claims that Meghan did not simply play the game in a different manner. The rulebook was destroyed and she dared them to stop her from doing so. To be sure,
Oh, you horribly odious woman. Honestly, I don't know. come.
But this is where things start to even out. More juicy. This wasn't just idle chatter and rumors. According to the word on the street, this remark has been making its way around specific social circles because of the London dinner party. As if they were a piece of scandalous contraband, these clubs are solely open to individual members. Every time it is repeated, it becomes a little more pointed and a little more decisive. This continues until a palace staffer who supposedly called her destructive has evolved into the palace officially branding her as the most destructive royal in the history of the palace. And Meghan, well, she is reportedly saddened by this. It is not because she is not accustomed to criticism. God knows she has had her fair share, that she fell into tears when she heard the quote, according to those close to her. On the contrary, it was because it originated from within the palace, from an individual who had previously been a member of the very institution that she had once envisioned herself working for. It has been said that she has been walking around the building, raving about the slander campaign, and how the royals will never allow her to live in relative tranquility. And to tell you the truth, she might not be entirely wrong about that last bit. There were more than a dozen times in which Meghan broke the rules. The relationship that Meghan has with the monarchy is, let's face it, like a lousy soap opera storyline that just refuses to finish. Every time you believe that they have done everything they could, a new turn of events appears out of nowhere, and the drama begins to rekindle all over again. And the timing of this most recent insult is extremely terrible, since it comes at a time when she has been working hard to restore her image following the fallout from Spotify, the criticism from Netflix, and rumors that Hollywood is over it. She is being referred to as the most destructive royal in the history of the palace by a voice from the palace. Not only is that a public relations setback, but it is also a branding disaster. Naturally, the irony lies in the fact that Meghan has spent a considerable amount of time and effort developing a narrative in which she is the one who is responsible for bringing the monarchy into the 21st century and modernizing it. However, when viewed from the perspective of the palace, it appears that the only thing she modernized was the rate at which centuries-old customs can be dismantled. The world of royal optics is a universe in which perception is reality, regardless of whether or not it is fair. First things first, let's not act as if the palace is a neutral observer in this situation. The same organization that has perfected the art of managing the press, leaking strategic sources say stories, and discreetly wiping reputations when it fits their needs, is another institution that has perfected the art of controlling the press. A warning shot is being fired if they are allowing anything like this to make its way into public discourse. They are doing this because they want it to happen. We are able to declare that we are aware of you, that we have not forgotten about you, and that we have the ability to change the direction of public opinion whenever we so choose.
A bit of a ball ache and an axe grinder, then I'm constantly cycling through various members of staff like hot dinner.
In addition, Meghan should brace herself if she believes that this is the worst that can happen, because once the dam breaks, insiders don't just talk once and then disappear. It is common for further stories to follow. Currently, Meghan's strategy appears to be heavily relying on the ignore and rise above approach. She is posting inspirational quotes, being photographed in carefully staged happy family moments, and making sure that every public appearance screams thriving. These are the kinds of stories that make the Netflix documentary look like a Disney princess special. However, the situation is very different when one looks behind the scenes. Apparently, there's talk of reaching out to sympathetic journalists, maybe even setting up another high-profile interview to set the record straight, which, if history has taught us anything, will only pour more fuel on the fire. Because here's the unspoken truth: every time Meghan tries to fight the palace in the court of public opinion, she ends up reminding everyone of the very drama she wants people to forget. And with this most destructive royal label now floating around, she's walking into a battle she might not win. And if you think that the reaction stopped with Meghan's tearful pacing in Montecito, you are mistaken. This is where the royal PR machine really shows its teeth, because within hours of that most destructive royal comment making the rounds, certain journalists, the ones who magically get tipped off about royal matters before anyone else started dropping very suggestive little tidbits into their columns, are the ones who really show their teeth. Of course, there are no names mentioned, and there are no direct statements. This is the kind of insider talk that you can almost hear being spoon-fed through a phone call that has been cleared by the palace. The implication is that Meghan did not only cause difficulties, the monarchy itself was weakened by her actions, and you could almost feel the knives being sharpened collectively in the corner of the room where William and Kate were sitting. This was not merely a matter of damage management, rather, it was a strategic destruction. It is important to remember that the William and Kate camp is not to be underestimated when it comes to managing public perception. The technique of maintaining a spotless reputation in the eyes of the mainstream press is something that they have mastered, all the while allowing others, such as courtiers, pals, and nameless sources, to perform the dirty work. As a matter of fact, a handful of those buddies have been spreading the word to anybody who will listen that Meghan had a desire to play the part of a princess, due to the fact that she utilized the royal title as a personal brand. And this is the most important point: she made it difficult for the family to function as a unified front. She was unable to fulfill the responsibilities that came with the royal title. Oh my goodness, they are no longer pulling any punches. To make matters even worse, it appears that Meghan's own circle is beginning to break apart as a result of the pressure. Are you remembering all of those celebrities from the A-list in Hollywood who were thrilled to be photographed with her at the beginning? The ones who were present at her extravagant baby shower in New York? Yes, it appeared that a few of them were becoming eerily quiet after a while. There were no shout-outs on Instagram, no public support, and nothing but radio silence. When it comes to Hollywood, silence is a powerful weapon. It has been reported that a reporter was informed by an insider in the entertainment industry that people are coming to the realization that Meghan comes with a lot of baggage. Yes, even they are joining in on the drama now. It hurts. You won't be able to forget that particular line of speech. And for Meghan, whose entire strategy for reinvention is predicated on being regarded as sympathetic, inspirational, and in demand, this is the worst case situation that could possibly occur, being perceived as too much bother to touch. During this time, back in the United Kingdom, the royal courtiers are, to tell you the truth, enjoying every single second of it. This is not because they take pleasure in scandal. For heaven's sake, that would be a disgraceful act. Nevertheless, due to the fact that this entire circumstance serves to bolster their golden rule, you are unable to prevail against the establishment. This was something that even Diana, who was so well liked, had to learn the hard way. And Meghan, well, those who are informed about the situation consider her to be Exhibit A, the live proof of what happens when you defy the monarchy and attempt to tell your own tale without the approval of the Queen. The palace's position, which is not officially taken, is crystal obvious. Meghan made the decision to go in this direction. After that, she left. She welcomed Netflix into her living room and allowed them to roll tape at the same time as she was airing the soiled laundry. It is unfortunate that she does not agree with the things that are being said about her, but it is the price that must be paid in order to play the game on your own terms. And here's where things become extremely cruel. Some royal watchers are coming to the conclusion that this most devastating royal name might actually stick for the long term. This is not because it is objectively true, rather it is because it is memorable. It is the kind of sentence that is used repeatedly in documentaries, in tabloids, and in podcasts. It is the kind of headline that has been appearing in Google searches for decades. In addition, if there is one thing that Meghan has realized by this point, it is that the royal family is committed to staying in this for the long run. They view the world in centuries. The news cycles are how she thinks. That is not a fight that is fair. It goes without saying that Meghan is not going to just sit back and cry into her organic herbal tea without having a plan and strategy. No one knows for sure whether she has been furiously thinking about her next major public action, something that will turn the narrative around and work in her advantage. However, here is the tough part. The more she attempts to reply, the more the palace can portray her as reactive, petty, and preoccupied with keeping the rivalry alive. This, let's be honest, plays right into the harmful narrative that is being told. Despite the fact that some of her advisors are reportedly encouraging her to just let it go and concentrate on her philanthropic work, her Archwell projects, and her carefully curated public image, others are cautioning her that silence will be interpreted as guilt. Considering Meghan's track record, betting on her to remain silent is comparable to betting on the British weather to remain sunny all week. It is technically possible, but you shouldn't hold your breath. Furthermore, there is Harry, poor Harry, who, according to those who are privy to the situation, is enraged by the entire situation. According to reports, he considers this to be yet another smear effort that is undertaken with the intention of emotionally breaking Meghan. However, here is the unsettling truth. Harry's own public credibility has also taken some hits recently. He is appearing less like the prince who was wronged and more like a man who can't stop picking fights with his own family. This means that his defense of Meghan, regardless of how heartfelt it may be, is going to be dismissed by critics as just another chapter in the whiny Sussex versus the firm. The Netflix documentary series is also a part of his ongoing legal battles with the press in the United Kingdom. This entire drama is taking place without Meghan. Being present in the relations, there were no clarifications, she is playing denials, and every move she makes seems to open up another line of attack. This is the most frustrating aspect of the situation for Meghan, allowing it to be repeated devastating quotation over again she gives by commentators, and the press was allowed to speculate on her standing in the Hollywood industry. She appears to be in a cheerful mood with Harry in the photograph. The implication is that she is destructive. She shares a quote that is uplifting on her social media accounts. That was a personal opinion from a former staff member. The palace is well aware of how to make her dance to their song, and everything is so predictable that it is almost absurd to add insult to injury. You can bet that the subsequent royal engagement that will feature William and Kate will be outstanding. They will shake hands with school children, laugh in coordinated unison, and radiate calm confidence. The goal was to bring back her sense of smiling, will subtly underline her side of the story. The message is that we are steadfast and dignified, which is exactly what Meghan is not. It is Meghan's worst nightmare, and it is a masterclass in public relations in a covert manner. Here we are. Meghan and Montecito reportedly interviews are now considering and strategizing the palace in London. It is possible that they will letting their little sound bites do all the work. The British press feasting on the fallout, and somewhere in the middle of it, all the label television producers royal ever floating around like unless they are the ones who are writing never quite scrub out. Meghan is left with that this is the first round of the palace's most recent talk show episode. Meghan had better get herself ready because the past demonstrates that when they begin a campaign of this nature, they do not stop until they have obtained victory. Attempting 48 hours of the most devastating royal scandal, blasting across UK tabloids and spilling into which were from ardent followers who referred to her as a queen, and the other half were from Meghan appears online. So Meghan believes that this marks the beginning of the counter-offensive, as Meghan is struggling to maintain control of the optics in California. The press in the United Kingdom is increasing its efforts. They have new pieces of writing that in a casual outfit she was unable to integrate herself into the royal machine. And would you believe how she misinterpreted her job and how she disregarded tradition in order to advance her own personal interest? That was almost rebellious. If you believe that is the celebrity prank that has been around the longest, you are mistaken. An image of yourself performing its traditional drip feed at this moment. They are talking that is unfortunate. Every single day you will be told a flattering story that people are no longer even ask where they are coming from. This public relations play that Harry's frustration is approaching a short period of starts to boil over. Is not only does he have the impression that he is unable to defend Meghan, but he is also beginning to understand that his own family, without a doubt, she is doing wonderfully in assisting him in preparing for the public once more, which is precisely what the palace wants everyone to believe. This confirms the narrative rather than changing it, which is exactly what the palace wants everyone permanently outside the fold. Harry, meanwhile, this means that there will be no reconciliation moment to come charging in. According to one source who may or may not be dining out on Sussex drama for the third time this year, Harry was fact that Meghan and Harry have struggled to generate headlines, or rather, stick their charity who used to be his friends, and now Harry's environmental speeches say he was ready to confront certain members of the family personally, with their instead of hopping on a plane, he's been told by his legal team that it is working. Impulsive trip to London outside of royal drama. Meghan and Harry have struggled to generate headlines. Harry is currently in the process of preparing a statement, and they are going to use it as a weapon. Nothing can put out a royal firestorm refers to Meghan additional gasoline in the royal in history. This is not merely an insult. Rather, it is part of a strategic framing. Every time Harry pulls out that flag in the mind of the people hear the officials her legacy is bursting champagne. If Meghan is unable to find a method to entirely reinvent herself, which is not an easy task when your every action is nothing visible, this is the most possible maneuver, and she may outlive that label. Even worse, certain media outlets in the United States are beginning to wholesalely adopt the framing of the United Kingdom. In addition, once that occurs, Meghan will lose one of the major safe havens that she has left. She is battling on two unfriendly fronts, the British press and a skeptical entertainment business in the United States. If she is unable to rely on American outlets to give her account of the events that have occurred, it is enough to make anyone cry, and according to reports, it has pals who say otherwise. Behind closed doors, Meghan has been in a state of complete and utter devastation, alternating between cry sessions and frenetic planning sessions. She is determined to strike back in order to demonstrate that she is still in control and to disprove their assertions. However, the more she plans her counterstrike, the more it appears that she is playing their game, and in this game, the house always comes out on top. By the time that week came to a close, Meghan had gone from planning reactions that were calm and planned to seething in full-blown rage toward the situation. According to the sources, she was reportedly rampaging about the Montecito estate, yelling commands at the staff, and ordering her public relations experts experts that she needed a new narrative and that she wants it yesterday. Nevertheless, here's the thing about new narratives. You can't just announce them like you would a seasonal product launch announcement. In order to sell something, you need to have a real story. The issue that Meghan is facing at the moment is that she has already divulged an excessive amount of her tale to the general public, including the major revelations, the tearful confessions, and the truth bombs. Due to the fact that she has already used those cards, everything fresh runs the risk of feeling like a repeat. Meghan is portrayed as the victim of a campaign of planned brutality that was orchestrated by the palace, according to the hypothesis that is floated by her department. An aggressive narrative is being presented, and it may be successful if they had new data to back it up. However, this is where things start to get complicated, because according to someone who has been in the orbit of Sussex for a sufficient amount of time to know the drill, Meghan's version of fresh evidence is basically recycled grievances with a new coat of paint, old text messages, old staff stories, and the same emotional beats that were already present in the Oprah interview, the Netflix series, and Spare. The problem is not that these events did not take place. Rather, it is that the audience has already heard them all before, and in public relations, repetition without escalation is dangerous. It would appear that Harry, perceiving the impasse, makes the hasty choice to assume control of the situation. This is a decision that is not even close to being influenced by his public relations team, since they would have been able to prevent him from taking control. He creates a video message that is directed toward the general public, in which he defends Meghan in a manner that is sincere, but let's be honest, sloppy. He discusses the potentially harmful actors, the potentially harmful rhetoric, and the historical patterns of abuse that have occurred within the organization. It is unfiltered, it is emotional, and it is precisely what Meghan most likely wanted him to say, but it lands like a lead balloon. How come? Due to the fact that the very individuals Harry wants to win over, in order to win over the uncertain middle view it not as noble, but rather as more victimization, branding, and even worse. In a matter of hours, the headlines in the United Kingdom press devour it alive. Another temper tantrum is thrown by Harry in response to Meghan's criticism, and Prince displays his thin skin once more. A public relations own goal is the kind of goal that you can't go back on, and the palace, yeah, they love this, but not in public. Naturally, they are way too dignified to do something like that. Nevertheless, it is said that certain assistants were overjoyed to see Harry step on that rake. This information comes from behind the scenes. How come? Due to the fact that it demonstrates that Meghan and Harry are incapable of exercising strategic restraint, are emotionally driven, and are reactionary toward situations. Next, the clincher arrives. Just as Meghan is beginning to believe that the storm may be ending, another special drop occurs in a prominent tabloid in the United Kingdom. In this one, yet another palace source, a former aide, is said to have asserted that Meghan was the most difficult member of the royal family to work with in recent history. She was not just damaging, but she was also impossible to work with. The double hit is a strategic method. Within a single statement, she is portrayed as a threat to the organization. The second portrays her in a manner that is intolerable on a human level. In addition, this is the section that truly makes the knife twist. The article contains quotations from former co-workers who have chosen to remain anonymous. These individuals claim that Meghan had difficulty accepting counsel, that she believed she knew better than the established protocol, and that she considered palace staff to be beneath her. The fact that these allegations are based on the oldest and most persistent critique of Meghan, which is that she is entitled and haughty, makes them extremely damaging, regardless of whether or not they are accurate. It is quite difficult to remove the roots of that seed once it has been sown. As of this moment, Meghan's inner circle is conveying to her information that she does not wish to hear. Stop feeding the beast every time she pushes back. Every time Harry releases another remark, they are merely keeping the tail alive. Stop feeding the beast. On the other hand, Meghan is not one to give up, even when she is convinced that she has been set up or when she feels that she has been wronged. In light of this, she begins searching for allies. There is no longer any mention of Jessica Mulroney. She is maintaining her distance, Oprah. It has been claimed that some of Tyler Perry's California influencer pals are advising her to keep things low-key. This is not because they do not support her. Rather, they are aware that ongoing public feuds are detrimental to business partnerships. Tyler Perry is still friendly but cautious. For Meghan, this is the moment when the fear begins to set in. If she is unable to locate high-profile defenders who are prepared to go on record for her, she runs the risk of appearing isolated. And in the entertainment industry, isolation is the first step toward being irrelevant. The next thing you know, you're the hot topic that everyone wants to have dining with them. The following moment, you are the person who they acknowledge with a courteous wave from across the room. And the palace, of course, does not have to do anything at all. When it comes to scandal, the public's memory is short when it comes to royal charitable work or private goodness, but it is long when it comes to scandal. Because of this, even Meghan's staff is discreetly scared at this point. The longer Meghan continues to flail, the more the destructive reputation is cemented. They have witnessed the hardening of popular opinion in the past. When they think of Fergie or Diana when she was at her lowest in the tabloids, they are aware that once the story becomes calcified, it will reverse itself. Since it takes years, Meghan does not have any years available. She is now being dominated by a headline that she did not write about, a quote that she did not say from a person that she cannot name in an institution that she cannot control. And if that is not the definition of a royal nightmare, I don't know what is Meghan's one last move. It came in the form of a glossy, well-lit video message, and it was directed not to the press since she had given up on them, but directly to her followers. She spoke about sorrow, about the need of speaking one's truth, and about the cost of questioning systems that oppose change. The video was shot in a living room that had been meticulously set with flowers in the background, warm toned, lighting and soft piano music that emphasized her comments. In addition to being professional and emotive, it was also quite lengthy, clocking in at almost 10 minutes. She wanted to avoid the tabloids and go straight to the people who believed in her, to demonstrate that she was vulnerable, to humanize herself once more, and to remind the world of the humanitarian work she had done, the advocacy she had done, and the challenges she had faced. But this is when the flaws appeared, since immediately after it went live, viewers with keen eyes pointed out the designer clothing, the luxury blanket on the couch, and the coffee table book that was artfully placed with her own cover facing the camera. Some people did not feel vulnerable at all. Not only was it a performance, but it was also a set piece that was supposed to look modest while actually shouting abundance and power. And the disagreement was particularly harsh in the comment sections. Skeptics, on the other hand, had a field day. Her closest fans lauded her bravery, but they were not impressed. It was then that phrases such as scripted self-serving and tone deaf started to circulate. Within a matter of minutes, even some former allies whispered to journalists from the background that the entire affair appeared to be overproduced. The shift of the palace, which was unobtrusive, devastating, and perfectly timed, occurred within 48 hours of Meghan's video broadcast. During an occasion for a children's hospice, Kensington Palace shared a new collection of photographs that showed Kate looking lovely and smiling. It is impossible to overstate how stark the contrast is. The optics were not only terrible for Meghan, but they were devastating. One royal was presented in an intimate act of service, holding youngsters and laughing freely, while the other royal delivered a carefully orchestrated monologue about herself. And when Harry let out his frustration in private, Meghan reportedly lost her cool and came down in tears. No longer was she crying because of the palace insider's most devastating royal moniker. She was crying for other reasons. Because she had come to the realization that they were not going to stop, she was crying. Every counter move she made, every attempt to change the narrative was being outplayed, out-timed, and out. And it was being framed by people who had decades of experience doing just this. When she entered the realm of the royal family, she was not given any warnings about this particular aspect of the game, which is that it never came to a conclusion, and the opposing side never became exhausted. And as she sat in that Montecito living room, surrounded by stillness, despite all her ruckus, one thing became painfully evident. If Meghan thought she was in control of her story, the palace had just reminded her they have the pen.